to Raid Shadow Legends with Kat. Hi. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about Raid Shadow Legends, like we do every day. But the point of the video today is that we are talking about the top 5 artifact sets for beginners. So this came up because of a comment on one of my recent videos, and I thought it was a really good question about what artifact sets are the best if you are early on in your game. My biggest block to improving my damage and speed in arena, in clan boss, in dungeons, and everywhere else in the game, my biggest block in general in the game is artifacts. So I know it's even harder when you're an early game player. I didn't understand a thing about artifacts when I was an early game player, so I wanted to make a video about that if you're just starting out your account. If you haven't played the game in a hot minute and you want to restart your account, the best way to do that is to click the link in the description or scan the QR code. You're going to get Rector Drath immediately when you start the new account, and then at level 15 you're going to get Yugo. So both Rector Drath and Yugo are fantastic support champions. They're super helpful. And I'm going to make a lot more videos about early game. I'm going to be starting a new account this week. If you are interested in seeing more of how I progress along in a beginner account, I've made a video about what I'm going to do differently. Please subscribe to the channel so that way you can see what I'm making as soon as it comes out. I'm aiming for 500 subscribers right now. We're at 369 today. If you do that, it is a huge help. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for even watching the videos, for commenting, for being a part of it, for coming into the live streams, all of that stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm having a blast doing this, if you can't tell by some of the stupid videos that I create. The way I've ranked each of these artifact sets, you are such a good listener. The artifact sets are ranked in here based on how early in the game the gear can be obtained. So we're not going to do things that are kind of late game stuff that you get from Doom Tower or Curse City. None of that. We're going to be talking about stuff that you can get in campaigns, things that you can get from dungeons, that kind of thing. Stuff that you can get like early on immediately. And then how important the stats are to early game, even mid game and late game. So I'm going to have a link in the description to the Hell Hades artifact tier list. This is kind of where I pulled from, but I also took my own experience into account here. All right, so number 5, the lowest on the list, but still something that's worth paying attention to, is the critical rate gear set. The way these sets work is that when you have several pieces of the same gear set, you get little bonuses. So for example, with the crit rate set, if you have 2 pieces, you're gonna get a crit rate boost of 12%, which is really good. Super helpful. This is something that can be farmed from campaign stage 4. So the entire section of Durham Forest. You can also get it from Ice Golem. Ice Golem can be kind of tricky for an early player. It's a good starting point. Crit rate is really important to help with overall damage. So the way crit rate works is that it's giving your champions a higher rate of having a critical hit, which is more damage. So you want to aim for as close to 100% crit rate as possible. And then from there, your characters are going to do a lot more damage. This set in particular is not super important later on, so that's why it's the lowest on the list. And the fact that Ice Golem can be tricky, but it's still really good if you're in the first, I would say, couple weeks or month of playing the game. Crit rate is a good gear to farm. My number 4 on this list is going to be Toxic. So Toxic can be harvested from the Dragon's Lair. In my experience, this is the easiest dungeon to go through. There's not a lot of nuance to it. You can see I've made it pretty far into it, despite it taking really long at a certain point. But this is a dungeon that you can start tackling pretty early on into your account. Toxic is helpful because of poison. If you did not pick Kale as your starting champion, which is an amateur move, poison is helpful because it punches through champions that tend to dodge, like Loki with his misstep passive, or champions that have high defense. If you can stack a lot of poison debuffs on them, it makes it really helpful. It is also really helpful in clan boss because the goal of clan boss is to do as much damage as possible. So even just that little boost from the poison can be really helpful. Toxic is also a really great artifact set to use because you don't need high accuracy in order to land the poison debuff. It's just going to land regardless of what your champion's accuracy is. We're going to talk a little bit about accuracy in a minute, but before then I want to remind you click the link in the description. You're going to get energy refills. You're going to get silver, which is what you're going to need to upgrade this gear in the first place. You'll also get Rector Drath and Yugo, both of which are going to be really helpful in your early game. And you get Yugo at level 15, which happens way quicker than you're expecting. All right, number 3, we're working our way up. Number 3, we're in the pinpoint gear. So pinpoint gear is kind of a double-edged sword or double-edged axe, but that is because you can only harvest pinpoint artifacts during the event dungeons. So right now this is happening for the next 2 weeks as I'm recording this video. The last day for it is going to be March 4th. So right now when you run the event dungeon, you can get pinpoint gear. So pinpoint gear is really special because, you know, you'll see that there are a couple of the other pieces that I have on here. You just get single stat boosts. Like crit rate only gives you a boost in crit rate and that's it. But pinpoint, the more pieces you add, the more you get added to it. So it mainly focuses on accuracy and speed, which are some of the most important stats in the entire game. Everything boils down to accuracy, speed, and attack, and crit rate. These stats make the biggest difference out of everybody else. So the first piece, just having one piece of pinpoint alone gives you a small boost in accuracy. If you have 2 pieces equipped, you're going to get 10% boost in speed, not just 10 points, 10%. When you have 3 pieces, you're going to get 20% accuracy and on and on. You're going to get intercept stacks, all this other stuff. Crowd control is really helpful if you're up against champions that wipe the buffs right off the bat, or ones that tend to just lay on a ton of debuffs, especially ones that lay off a lot of stun or anything like that. All right, now we are on to number 2 on our list, and that is perception. So this is in my opinion, the second best artifact set to have as a beginner. And the only reason it's not number 1 is because you can only craft it in the forge. And the forge doesn't unlock until level 30. So let's say you are super early on in the game. Perception and plus the materials that you need to craft perception are not easy to get access to. You have to do a lot in Faction Wars, and early on in the game, I didn't make that much progress in Faction Wars. I'm only now, 6 months into my game, at really making progress in Faction Wars and really getting good forge materials. So aside from that, perception is still really, really good. It improves both speed and accuracy, which I said before are some of the most important stats in the game. Speed is pretty much everything. If you don't go first, you're last. Right, Ricky Bobby?
That phrase is trademark, not to use outside tradition, Ricky Bobby.
But accuracy is also important because if you have champions that place buffs or debuffs, they need to have high accuracy so that they actually hit. And even it says here, accuracy and speed are 2 of the most important stats for champions in the game. So it's early to mid game and later can be really pushed to use your builds. So this is one that also has longevity. So even later in the game, even once you're past the early beginning stages, perception is still by far one of the best artifact sets in the game, maybe even one of the best. I have perception on Loki. I believe I have him all over Sun Wukong. It is one I have him in Deacon Armstrong. I have him in Kale. This is a artifact set that will last you a while. So it's worth investing in once you open up the forge and start getting all of those materials. It's definitely one to focus on. All right, we're going to go to the number 1 artifact set for beginners, speed. I've said it a lot throughout this video, but this is absolutely true. Speed is the most important stat in the entire game. It is everything in Raid Shadow Legends. It's important for Arena, Faction Wars, Campaign, Clan Boss, everything. It is number 1 on this list, not only because speed is so important in the game, but you can harvest it really early on. In stage 6 of wherever you are in campaigns, whether it's normal, hard, brutal, or nightmare, you're going to get speed. You're going to get speed gear. Now, when you have 2 pieces equipped, you're going to get a 12% speed boost. That is huge. I still use speed gear. After 6 months of playing, my Alice uses it. She's very important. My Rector Drath uses it. My Deacon Armstrong uses it. So it is by far, for a beginner, the best artifact set to use. So harvest it from stage 6 of campaign. And I said it before, it is also found in Dragon's Lair. Right now, you're getting double drops on speed gear. I might be spending a lot of time in the Dragon's Lair today doing this because like I said at the very beginning, I really need a lot better artifacts. That is what's holding me back from getting further in the game right now. I'm able to upgrade the other parts of my champions really easily, but artifacts is where I feel like I'm held back the most. So I'm probably going to be spending a lot of time in the Dragon's Lair getting my speed gear. But that's everything I have. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Comment below, especially if you're a later game player, what do you think of these artifact sets? Do you agree? Do you disagree? But if you are early on in the game, these are where you should focus. If you haven't started playing before, I highly recommend it. I didn't expect to have as much fun as I do playing Raid Shadow Legends, but that's why we're doing these videos now. If you click the link in the description or scan the QR code, you're going to get a bunch of boosts through my link. You're going to get Rector Drath, who is super important early on, and Yugo, you'll get at level 15. You're going to get some pieces that will help boost the artifacts that you get. You're going to need silver. You're going to need energy in order to farm a lot of this gear. So everything that comes with the link are things that you will use. It's a good way to start off the game. Don't forget to use the promo code Monkey King to get Sun Wukong. And don't forget that if you log in for 7 days, you get Alice the Wanderer. That's everything I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're aiming for 500, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!